The sound of gunfire shattered the quiet evening. Michael Carter, a single dad, was walking home from the park with his 10-year-old daughter Emily and their loyal German shepherd, Rex. Life hadn't been easy since his wife passed away 2 years ago, but Michael found strength in the little family he still had. As they turned the corner, chaos unfolded. A police officer was pinned down behind his squad car, bullets ricocheting off the metal. The young cop, barely older than Michael had been when Emily was born, was alone, terrified, and bleeding from a wound in his shoulder. Most people would have run. But Michael froze, his instincts pulling him in a different direction. Emily's small hand gripped his tightly. "Daddy, don't," she whispered, fear trembling in her voice. Michael glanced at her, then at the officer. He saw not a cop, but someone's son. Someone's brother. Someone's father, maybe. And in that instant, he made a choice. "Stay with Rex," he said firmly, handing Emily the dog's leash. "Don't move until I say." Before she could protest, Michael sprinted straight into the line of fire. He ducked behind the car, pressing his back against the dented metal. "You're gonna be okay," he told the officer, grabbing his hand. "I've got you." The officer's wide eyes filled with shock. This stranger, a father with everything to lose, had just run into danger, for him. Michael didn't know what would happen next. He only knew he couldn't walk away. Michael's heart pounded as the gunfire grew louder. Every step felt heavier, but he pushed forward, shielding the officer with his own body. His mind raced, he had to act fast, or neither of them would make it. From the corner of his eye, he saw Rex, Emily's faithful dog, straining against the leash. The dog's low growl told Michael he was ready to help, and in a flash, an idea struck him. "Rex, go," he shouted, and the German shepherd lunged with precision, leaping toward the nearest assailant. The sudden distraction gave Michael just enough time to drag the officer behind a dumpster. The gunman's shots missed by mere inches, and Michael felt the sting of adrenaline mixed with terror. The officer's grip on his arm tightened. I can't believe you, why?" he gasped. Michael shook his head, catching his breath. "Because, someone would have done it for me. I couldn't stand there and do nothing." Emily's voice suddenly rang out, high and clear, "Dad, he's bleeding." Michael's stomach twisted. He glanced back and saw her holding Rex, her eyes wide with fear, but she was safe. That small reassurance gave him the courage to keep moving. With a final burst of energy, Michael pulled the officer toward an alley, Rex at their side, growling and barking, driving the shooters back. It was a desperate, chaotic dance of courage, fear, and instinct, but slowly, they gained ground. By the time the last shots rang out, the street fell silent. Michael looked at the officer, bloodied but alive, and Rex, panting but vigilant, and for a brief moment, time seemed to freeze. Somehow, against all odds, they had survived. The sirens arrived just as Michael eased the officer into a safer spot behind a brick wall. Police cars screeched to a halt, officers jumping out with weapons drawn. The gunman, startled by the sudden reinforcements, fled into the night. Paramedics rushed to the officer, who was pale but conscious. Michael stood back, chest heaving, sweat mixing with dust and blood. He had expected gratitude, applause, even acknowledgement, but the cop's eyes remained wide, uncertain. Then a voice broke through. Who saved us?" one officer asked, looking at Michael in disbelief. Michael swallowed. "I just did what anyone would do," he said quietly, trying to hide the shaking in his hands. But then Rex ran forward, nudging Michael's legs and growling at anyone who came too close. The dog had been part of the rescue, part of this impossible act. Officers stepped back, realizing it wasn't just the man, they had a canine hero, too. Emily ran to her dad, wrapping her small arms around him. "I was so scared," she whispered, clinging to him. Michael hugged her tight, feeling the warmth of life in the middle of chaos. The officer, finally catching his breath, looked at Michael and smiled weakly. "I don't know how to thank you," he said. "You, both of you, saved my life." Michael shook his head. "Just promise me you'll stay safe out here. That's all I ask." As the paramedics wheeled the officer away, Michael held Emily's hand, feeling a quiet pride. They had run into gunfire, faced unimaginable fear, and yet, in that moment, kindness and courage had triumphed. Even in a world filled with danger, he realized, selflessness could still create miracles, sometimes with a four-legged friend by your side. News of the incident spread quickly. By morning, Michael and Rex had become local heroes. Officers from the precinct came to his modest apartment, shaking his hand, patting Rex, and thanking him over and over. But Michael felt awkward, almost embarrassed. He hadn't done it for recognition, he had done it because it was the right thing. Emily watched in awe as her dad interacted with the police. "Dad, you're famous," she whispered, eyes wide. Michael smiled, ruffling her hair. "I'm not famous, Em. I'm just someone who couldn't walk away." That evening, the officer Michael had saved came to visit. His shoulder was bandaged, his expression serious but warm. "You didn't just save me," he said, voice thick with emotion. "You reminded all of us what courage and humanity really look like." Michael shook his head. "I had help," he said, gesturing toward Rex, who wagged his tail proudly. "Rex kept them at bay. He's the real hero." The officer knelt down and handed Michael a small, folded envelope. "For you and Emily. It's not much, but consider it a thank you." Michael opened it to find a card with a simple message: "Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting in spite of it. Thank you." Tears welled in Michael's eyes. He hugged the officer, realizing that bravery wasn't measured by accolades but by moments like this, when life demanded selflessness, and you answered without hesitation. Emily hugged Rex tightly, and Michael held them both, feeling a profound sense of unity. In that moment, he understood that heroism wasn't about glory, it was about protecting others, standing up in the face of danger, and showing love even when the world seemed dark. Sometimes, the smallest acts of courage leave the biggest impact, and this night had proven it. Weeks passed, but the memory of that night never left Michael, Emily, or Rex. The officer he had saved visited often, bringing stories from the precinct and updates on cases Michael had never imagined existed. Each visit reminded him of the fragile thread of life, and how one small act could ripple into something extraordinary. One Saturday morning, Emily tugged at his sleeve. "Dad, can we take Rex to the park? Maybe someone else needs help too," she said, her eyes shining. Michael smiled, realizing that courage and compassion were already taking root in his daughter's heart. That afternoon, they walked through the park, Rex bounding ahead. Children laughed, families gathered, and life went on, blissfully unaware of the chaos that had erupted weeks before. But for Michael, every smile, every laugh, felt like a quiet reminder of what he had risked, and gained. The officer called unexpectedly. "You know, I told my team about you, Michael. You and Rex have inspired the entire precinct. Some of us are trying to volunteer more, help more, because you reminded us why we do this job." Michael paused, feeling warmth spread through him. "I didn't do it for that," he said softly. "I just did what anyone should. But sometimes, being human, kind, brave, and selfless, was enough to change the world." That night had proven it. One father, one daughter, and one loyal dog had faced fear and walked through it together, leaving a legacy far greater than themselves. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Michael looked at Emily and Rex, their silhouettes framed in gold. In that quiet moment, he understood a simple truth: courage isn't about glory, fame, or recognition, it's about love, action, and hope. And in that understanding, the world seemed a little brighter.